Hey everybody, this is Peter with Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to be doing a board game review. We're going to be taking a look at the board game InBetween by Board and Dicey Games. It's meant to be played by 2 players and be played in anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes. Now, if you are somebody who enjoys Netflix's Stranger Things and you also like board games, then this might be a game that you would be interested in playing. It is a game where one player will be playing as the creature who is trying to take over the town and draw all of its people to its dimension and devour them. And the other player will be playing the town who is trying to keep all of the townsfolk safe and secure from the creature. We'll take the game down to the table. We'll see all the components that are in the game. We'll talk a little bit about how the game is played. Then we're going to come back up and I'll give you my final thoughts on InBetween. All right, everybody. So we're down to the table with InBetween by Board and Dice Games. And first point that they get for me is just the art itself. The idea, the theme behind the game of one player playing as the townsfolk, trying to keep themselves safe. The other person trying to play as the creature, trying to pull them into the creature's dimension and devour them, is sold just on the art of the box itself. So we have the front side of the box has this idyllic looking home, white picket fence, nice car, everything is great. Flip the box over and you have a hellish creature dimension where the same house is all on fire and kind of warped and everything looking. And I think that that's a very fun and unique idea. All of the game information is in between along the edges of the box. Again, I think it's unique. I think it's kind of fun. I've heard some people say they don't love that the name of the game is not on the box. It doesn't right away say this is a game. This could very easily just be a puzzle. But I myself think it's very fun. I thought it was a unique idea, and I'm glad that they did it. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to open up the box, take a look at the components of the game. Like usual, we have our rules book. This rules book is only 18 pages long, has quite a bit of art and also white space included, so not a ton of text for you to have to read to explain the game itself. And it does a fairly good job of making the game understandable in a very good sequential order. I feel like the layout of everything is pretty good in this rules book. On the left-hand side over here, we have 2 plastic bags. One has all of our tokens, our directional token. We also have the marker for whose turn it is in this bag. And then we have a bag full of wooden cubes, 3 different colors, purple, red, and blue. And then on the other side of the box, we have all of the cards that we're going to be using to play the game itself. Each player is going to get their own turn structure card as well as safety states. It's on 2 different sides of the same card, giving them a little bit of a refresher for the rules of the game and how the game is meant to be played. Each player will also get their own awareness tracker. So for the creature player, they're going to get this black and red awareness tracker. And for the towns player, they're going to get this white and blue awareness tracker. Also, we have 18 character cards. These are the townsfolk who we are going to be trying to either devour or save, depending on which player you are. And each character card is double-sided. So we have the white and blue side of the card for the human dimension. And if they get pulled over into the creature's dimension, they'll be flipped over onto this darker with the yellow and the red side of the card. Each card has multiple sections to it. We'll go over those in just a moment. And the last thing we have here, we have our 2 decks of cards, one for the player playing as the townsfolk and the other playing as the creature. And you can tell the difference again because of the art on the backs of each of these cards, or each of these decks. And 28 cards in each deck. That is everything, all the components that you're going to need when playing the game itself. Now, breaking down the character cards, though, we do have, like I said, these different sections of the cards themselves. We have a little bit of art for the person, depending on which side they're on. So here we have this person teaching and explaining things to some kids in a classroom. And then here we have the same classroom, but the person's freaking out a little bit because, of course, they've been pulled over to the creature's side of the creature's dimension. Along the left-hand side of the card on both sides are 3 different states that this character can find themselves in. And as you're playing the game, you're going to be trying to get them, if you're the human player, you're going to be trying to get them all the way down here to this safety state that is listed as secured. So again, this is mentioned here on the safety states of the card. We have alert, 2 spots for guarded, and 1 spot for secured. And if we flip it over, we have 1 spot here for nervous, 2 spots for terrified, and 1 spot for devoured. So one of the ways to win the game is trying to get multiple people in the game, multiple characters, to either the secured spot, or if you're the creature, to the devoured spot. So that is along the left-hand side of the character cards. And then along the bottom, you have 2 symbols, 1 on each side, 1 for, again, the town's player and 1 for the creature player. And then in between, you have a card ability, which may or not get activated on a player's turn. And it's usually pretty much the same ability listed on both sides, but one will be for the creature to benefit and the other for the townsfolk player to benefit. And so again, that's everything that you need here to play In Between. Okay, so we've taken a look at the components of the game In Between. Let's go ahead now and take a look at the setup of the game. You're going to go ahead and shuffle the townsfolk cards and deal out 10 of them in a circular fashion, beginning with 1 on the blue side, and then 1 on the yellow side, 1 on the blue side, yellow, and alternating all the way around. So you have 10 out. The rest of the townsfolk cards will be put back in the box and not used during this game. You're also going to have your direction marker going clockwise, though during the game that might change to counterclockwise, but at the beginning it's clockwise. Each player will take 5 of their energy cubes of their color. They will also have within easy reach these different symboled tokens, and then they're also going to have the purple cubes that are going to be used to track the status of the townsfolk throughout the game. Each player has their awareness card, and they're ready to change the track if they need to. And then each player also has their deck of 28 cards. The creature cards, there are 7 different cards with 4 copies of each. And then the player has a deck that is much different, has item cards and different action abilities. So these are pretty interesting. 2 very different decks of cards, 2 different styles of play, really, for those 2 players. But that is everything that you need to have within easy reach for the setup of the game. As you're dealing out the character cards, the townsfolk cards, when the first one pops up with a little star down on the bottom right, you'll go ahead then and put the activity marker on it with the opposite color facing up, indicating that the first player in this match is going to be the human player. All right, so that is where we're at, and we're going to be going clockwise around these different characters. And as we do, at the end of each turn, this activity marker will move and switch, indicating whose turn it is to play their turn. And that is the setup for In Between. All right, everybody, so we have taken a look at the components of the game. We've gone through setup. Let's go ahead quickly through what it looks like to play In Between. Each person's going to have their turn, and then the next person will go, and on your turn, you will work your way through 4 phases. There's the awareness phase, where you look at your awareness tracker, and depending on what level your awareness is at in the game, you have the ability to possibly use that ability. Now, once you use your awareness ability, you're done with it for the game. You can no longer use any of these abilities, but you will continue to keep track of your awareness, because the first person to get all the way up to 6 will win. So again, awareness phase, most of the time, nothing's really going to happen until you finally decide to use your awareness ability the one time for the game, flip over the token, and then continue to keep track for the rest of the game just how high your level is getting, because the first person to 6 wins. That's the awareness phase. Next, you have your action phase, which is broken down into 3 options. You can either play a card, you can prepare, or you can rest. If you're going to play a card, you have some options here. You're going to flip over one of the cards that you have in your hand, and you're going to use the symbol ability to do either one of 2 things. You're either going to interact with a card that has that symbol on it already, or you're going to use one of your extra icon tokens to add that icon to one of the other cards, so that in future rounds, when you play a card with that symbol, you can then interact with that card as if it already had that symbol on it. Again, that other thing of interacting with a card. So if you are going to interact with a card that already has this symbol on it, rather than placing a new token on it, you then are allowed to use one of the cubes here, one of the purple cubes, to pull that person further into your dimension. So if you have this one here with the sheriff symbol on it, let's go ahead and head over to Mandy, who also has the sheriff symbol on her card. If you were the human player, you could then go ahead and take a purple cube and place that purple cube at the top left of her card on the top left square. If that cube was already on her card and you played this card, you could move that down 1. And again, in the rest of the game, you would continue to move these down, pulling them closer and closer into your side. And if you're the human, you're making the player safer. If you're the creature, then you're bringing them closer to you so that you can devour them. So that is what you're using these symbols for. Again, to either interact with the safety marker on the card, or to add the icon to a card so that you can do that at a later time. The next thing that you can do after you've done that is you can have the option of spending energy cubes to use the ability at the bottom of each card. These abilities vary wildly, especially for the human player who has a very interesting deck of cards, lots of abilities and some special items. It's a little bit more repetitive with the creature. There are only 7 different cards in this deck with 4 copies of each one. So that for the creature, it's going to get a little bit more repetitive than it will for the townsfolk player. So they have a lot more options. But that is what you're doing if you decide to play a card. If you choose to prepare, you have the option to discard cards from your hand and gain cards into your hand up to 5. That's just a way to refresh your hand. If you're running low on energy cubes, maybe you've been spending them to use the abilities on other cards, or you've been using them to raise your awareness, which is a thing you get to do in the game, then you can rest. Resting allows you to count all of the different cards of your color. So if you're the creature player, you're looking at cards that are yellow. And if you're the townsfolk player, you're looking at cards that are blue. You count those cards up, and you gain that many energy cubes. So like here at the beginning of the game, if you were to go ahead and rest at the very beginning of the game, each player would have 5 cards in their color. They would gain 5 more energy cubes. Each player can only, at the max, have 10 energy cubes, because that is what is provided in the game. So those are the 3 actions you can choose to do during the action phase. The next part of your turn is the activity phase. Now, the activity phase, you're going to look at the card that the activity marker is currently on. If this card is in between, if there is no safety marker cube on their card, then nothing happens. But if a cube is on the card, but if a cube is on the card, then the person whose dimension this townsfolk is in has the ability to go ahead and spend energy cubes to raise your awareness. So that is where that happens. So it doesn't matter whose turn it is. It matters whose dimension this card is in. And if they have a cube on their track and they're in that person's dimension, they go ahead and they can spend energy cubes to raise their awareness. Also, if that energy cube is in the second or third portion of the track, or even down here in the fourth, the second, third, or fourth portion of the track, then not only does the person have the possibility of spending energy cubes to raise their awareness, then also the ability at the bottom of the card activates. So all of that can happen in the activity phase of each person's turn. And the last thing is the movement phase. And the movement phase is just the fact that the activity marker will go and it will flip over to the next card showing the next color, and then it is that person's turn. So that is a turn in a nutshell. You're going to have the ability to use your awareness phase. Then you'll have the action phase where you can either play a card, or you can prepare, or you can rest. And then you will also have the activity phase where you're going to be taking a look at the cards and seeing where they are along their safety track and whether or not somebody can raise their awareness or use the ability on the card itself or raise their awareness. And then you have the movement phase. And this is going to continue to happen turn after turn after turn as each player plays their cards, doing their best to raise their awareness or move these townsfolk's safety tracks either closer to devour or closer to safety. And the first person who can raise their awareness to 6, or the first person who can either save 3 townsfolk or devour 3 townsfolk, will win the game. Now, the other way to win the game is there is an ability in the game with some of these characters to actually remove townsfolk from the circle. If the circle would ever get down to only 5 townsfolk left, then at that point, whoever had the most townsfolk in their dimension would win. And that is playing in between in a nutshell. You're either trying to raise your awareness all the way to 6, you're either trying to devour or save 3 of these townsfolk, or if the townsfolk are down to just 5, the person who has the most in their dimension wins. Now, I will tell you, I have only ever seen this game end with somebody gaining 6 in their awareness. This is probably my biggest con to this game, is that you're given 4 possibilities of how to win this game. And so far, I've only ever seen it end in one way, which shows to me that there's a little bit of some kind of imbalance to this game. It very much is just a race to see who can raise their awareness to 6 first, and that's the end. So it's a fun tug of war. I find it very enjoyable. I like the ability to play the cards, to either manipulate the safety tracks or to place these extra icons onto the cards so that I can play with them earlier. The abilities on the cards are very interesting. It gives you the opportunity to sometimes skip over cards. And so a lot of it is just trying to determine whose turn it's going to be and on which card, and can I get that card to a spot so that I'm going to be able to raise my awareness quickly, or I'm going to be able to use the ability on the bottom of the card to the best effect. I definitely feel like, again, the awareness track win is one of the only ways to really win the game. It seems, again, to be a race for the awareness track. And if you're playing as the creature, you have a lot less options as to what you're going to be doing throughout the entire game. You're going to be playing one of pretty much 7 cards. That's it. You have those 7 abilities. They just keep repeating themselves, and you just try to make them work for you as best as you can. If you're the townsfolk player, you have a ton of options, and you have items, and it just seems to be a little bit cooler, I think, to probably play as the townsfolk, because you're going to have a lot more options available to you. But that is just my kind of initial reaction, having played the game a few times. Again, enjoyed myself, but if I had any quibble, it would be mostly that the awareness track ends. It seems to be the way the game is going to end. But that is the gameplay for In Between. Let's go ahead and come up from the table, and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so we're back up from the table, having taken a look at In Between by Board and Dice. This is a good tug of war board game for 2 players, but it's not my favorite tug of war board game for 2 players. And I would think the reason here is not the theme. The theme is good. I like the Stranger Things, legally distinct idea with the creature versus the townsfolk. I even like having all the townsfolk out there and you're trying to tug of war them. I think for me, where it fails a little bit is just the fact that we are supposed to have multiple ways of winning either the awareness tracker or the devouring or the saving of the townsfolk, or even the diminishing of the town just down to 5 people. The thing is only one of those seems to really come to fruition for the plays that I've had of it, and that is just the awareness track. It is a race to who can get their awareness track to 6 first, and that's it. If one player is trying to pull 3 of the townsfolk to them while the other one just focuses on awareness, that person's going to win with their awareness. If it's 2 players going after the awareness, well, then it's 50-50 who's going to get there first and who can play the strategy the best. And because there are very few chances of getting rid of townsfolk from the game, I've never even seen, in the times that I've played it, even one person removed from the circle of the townsfolk. So really, we have just one way of winning. And with a tug of war game like this, I find having multiple ways of winning intriguing and good, but they all have to be possible. And so far from my plays of In Between, those other winning conditions just aren't really feasible if you want to win the game. Maybe you're going to focus on one of those because you think it fits the theme better, but if the other person focuses on awareness, you're probably going to lose. And so for me, that is where In Between fails a little bit. It's a good game. I still enjoy playing it. It's just that you're going to be focusing on awareness. That's how you're going to win the game. So that is In Between. For me, a good tug of war 2-player game. If you like Stranger Things, if that's a property that you enjoy or a theme that you enjoy, that fantasy of the creature trying to take over the town and the town fighting against the creature, I would say give this game a try, and maybe you will find the different winning conditions more feasible for you. I'm not sure. But for me personally, this is just a good 2-player tug of war game. Not the best, but not bad. It's a good game. So I would head over to boardanddice.com, check out their games, check out this game, see if you can get yourself a copy of it if it sounds like something that would be up your alley, and give it a try. And I'd love to hear your comments in the video. If you've played this game, have you had the opportunity to win using one of the other win conditions? I'd love to hear about that, because again, the game is good. It intrigues me. So far, it's just not shining. So I'd love to hear your comments in the comments below. Definitely check out boardanddice.com. Check out tabletopgamingguild.com as well to see more about us and the things that we're doing. And until we talk again, everybody, keep on playing games.